We've been here over 10 years. This is my second meeting.
Okay. Who's this guy? What? Oh.
Hi, my name is Tex, and I'm here to eat.
Welcome, Tex. I'm Officer Chacon from the 114 Precinct, Community Affairs, your local precinct here.
I'm Armand. I've lived in Astoria for 4 years. I work as a systems administrator.
Anita Ned. I am a resident of Astoria for all my life.
Diana Turek. I'm also a longtime resident of Astoria, and I'm also a certified dog trainer.
Patrick Boyson, 12th Street.
Jamie Ayala, 12-year Astoria resident.
Dory Koukouris, Astoria native and member of Astoria Park Alliance, and I'll give you a quick update later. Oh, sorry. Who wants it?
Hi, Phyllis Parra. I'm an Astoria resident and a volunteer of Astoria Park Alliance.
Hi, I'm Angie McCormick, and I'm also a Astoria Park Alliance volunteer.
Hi, my name is Gail. I'm a Astoria resident as well, and we have a family school bus business in Astoria. So.
You do?
Yes.
Oh.
Family business.
Oh, on 18th Street?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
it's your business. Okay, good.
Yes.
I know, it's a great business.
Thank you, thank you.
My name is Thomas Ryan. I've been living in Astoria for about 20 years, and I run a blacksmith shop in Long Island City.
Blacksmith.
My name is Danny Wodzenski. I'm the Director of Operations for Brooklyn Harvest Market. At the entrance here, if you haven't picked one up, we got our weekly flyer here. You know, in addition to our great weekly features this week, we have a 10 off of 40 purchase and 5 off 40 and 10 off 75 purchase to incentivize you to come down. We also got, I know it's the holiday season, so I brought our catering flyer, our everyday catering flyer, in addition to our holiday meal program. So, you know, take a look when you get a chance and come on down and visit us. Thank you.
By the way, something I want to mention. He's responsible for the food. So that should be an incentive also.
Okay. Hi, I'm Larry Spiegel, live in the neighborhood, and have the usual sort of neighborhood concerns about, or stuff that other people would call nagging.
Hi, I'm Tom. I just opened up Tom's Pet Supply on Broadway and 21st Street. Thank you. I've been in Astoria for 22 years, and my family's been in Astoria a lot longer, and I'm just happy to bring something back to the community.
Hi, my name is Rafael Burgess. I'm here with the Department of City Planning.
Hi, my name is Richard Melnick. I was with the Astoria Historical Society on the board for 16 years. I stepped down to do a personal project. I've lived in Astoria since '95. I'm a night doorman, so I'd like to thank you for the awesome breakfast.
Hello, my name is Tony Foy, and I'm Community Outreach Coordinator for LaGuardia Performing Arts Center, located in LaGuardia Community College, and it's great to be here. I'm Tony. I don't know if I said my name.
Hi, everybody knows me. I'm Neil Hurden, co-chair Friends of Whitey Ford Field, and now I'm also your participatory budget coordinator for parks.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Marlene Krause. I work for Urban Explorations, we're a landscape design firm here in Astoria. Pat, the owner, will be right back.
Oh, here she is.
I had to grab the muffins before they were gone. So I'm Pat from Urban Explorations, and we have a landscape design company in Astoria. And we've been doing quite a lot more work in Queens, and we love working in Queens. So anyway, and I know Tom, because I buy pet food for my parakeets there. He's a great guy. Okay.
Oh, no, I work with her. Oh.
Mel from Urban Explorations. We do landscape design, and we're really good at digging.
Hi, I'm Mark Goldberg, photographer. I'm going to annoy you tonight with the flash, and I'm a videographer doing a film entitled Life is Hell, Living and Working Under and Around the Elevated Train Tracks in New York City. My major chore, if anyone already knows, is I need people who live directly next to an elevated train to be interviewed on the film. So if anybody knows anybody, I have some little pieces of paper. Come to talk to me later, and I'll give you the paper.
And we want to really thank Mark for, he volunteers every month to take photos. So we appreciate that. Now, there's a few people that walked in. Who did I miss? Who did I miss? Somebody's sitting down. Who did I miss? Anybody? We got a couple here.
Frank Miller. I'm on the board of Central Astoria Local Development Corporation.
I'm David Matten. I'm with the Long Island City Community Boathouse.
Hi, my name is Liz. I'm a longtime Astoria resident.
Okay. Listen, I think also everybody should give themselves a really big hand because in this cold weather, you guys all came out. And I'm always impressed. I remember last year when it was 3 degrees, we had 35 people show up. So, that says a lot for the community, how people both respect it and want to know more about it. And we're growing. Every year we're growing and we're developing, and that's a great thing. So, again, I appreciate everybody's participation. So, how will we start? Okay, first of all, I want to make one note about this. The way we proceed normally, somebody will make a presentation and then we'll have questions and I'll go through the room and people ask questions. I would ask, though, that if you have a personal issue that's really specific to just you and not for the general audience, okay, you can mention it, but please, it's better that you discuss that directly with the other parties themselves. It doesn't really have to involve everybody, and it's we have a very, very busy schedule here, so we don't want to go on forever. So everybody does want to get home at some point. So in general, if you would do that, I think that would help expedite things for everybody. Okay? Thank you. Okay. Now, what's new? There was one document that you saw as you came in. It was an op-ed, which will be published in the next few days in a couple of local papers. And it has to do with the new bike lanes. And the gist of this is that while protected bike lanes are important, we really think, the board members here at OANA, that traffic controls on those bike lanes are just or more important. So we really, really want to push for that. It's very, very difficult if a bicycle is going down a lane and making a right-hand turn at the same time, and he's following the light for the vehicle that's also making a right-hand turn. That's just a recipe for disaster. So I think that really has to be addressed. It's a big capital expenditure, but in the long run, the city has to do it. So this is something that we really feel strongly about. Okay, so also within our tradition is trying to build business here. Small business is extremely important, and so to that end, there's a couple of different, we have on the agenda Tom's, but also we had coming down here also Patricia Lynn Olmsted from Urban Explorations. So I'd like to bring her up for a second. Oh, sure. Okay.
I just finished it.
Okay. I thought it was a brand brownie, right? So, if you'd like to just explain a little about what you do.
Well, thank you for taking me at such late notice, since I emailed you last night. Anyway, we're Urban Explorations, and we do all kinds of landscape design work, as well as simple things like cleanups, and we're planting something like 15 to 20,000 bulbs, I think right now, tulip bulbs and daffodils. And I've been in business in Astoria for 27 years. And I started out with a tiny little neon and going out to Long Island and Philly with plants. But I've also been a resident of Astoria. I really love living here. I think it's become such a great community. And I don't know if, are any of you on Alignable or Astoria Direct? Astoria Direct? Because that's a really good website where you can, write in questions. Some people ask me gardening questions, and I respond to them. So anyway, I don't want to talk very long because I know you got a lot to do. But if you ever have any gardening needs, just give us a call. And our website is, I put some flyers out there and some cards if you want to take a look. Take a look at our website and see the kind of things we do. So anyway, any questions?
Well, if you move to the side, you can explain exactly what I'm showing you.
Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. So these are, so you can see that we do a lot of tree pits. It's our bread and butter. This is a tree pit, and we also get licenses to plant trees, and we plant trees and remove dead trees. And this is like, some of these are, this is on a roof. And down below here, I think you'll see the rooftop stuff that we do. This is just a simple planter. You can be really simple in doing these things. Here's where we have a lot of tulip bulbs. And this is in Long Island City. So we've done some work in Long Island City. This was one of my favorite terraces because we had beautiful flowers growing over this terrace, and we installed that pergola. And then this is another terrace that we did that overlooks the Empire State Building. So, but it's all not all real sexy work. I mean, some of it's just cleaning up stuff, removing garbage, pruning trees back that are all dead. So it goes from one extreme to the other. These look really, really nice, and it looks fun. But like I say, we'll do other kinds of work as well. Okay, thank you so much for those pictures. It's really nice of you. Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions? Yes. Okay.
Hi, Phyllis Para. On the first one, on the first picture, they had, I just wanted to know, do you know where on the top, they have the tree guards around the base of the tree? You see the...
Oh, yeah, we saw these as well.
Oh, so you said, okay, because I have a friend who's looking for those. So.
The ones that you can get the iron ones, but the ones that we sell now are sustainable. They're recycled, really hard plastic.
Okay.
And they're much less expensive than the iron.
Because I got a quote of like $800 for the.
Okay, well, just send us an email or give us a call. And my card's over there. We can get a quote for you. How many tree pits do you have?
It's not for me, it's for a friend. I think it's one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's okay.
All right, but I'll definitely let her know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Anything else? No. Okay.
Oh,
oh, yeah. Oh, that's true.
Oh, do you
Yes.
do iron ones?
He's a blacksmith.
Oh, give me your card.
See, that's what people are here to meet each other. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, now, next I'd like to bring up Tom from Tom's Pet Supply. Okay. Yeah.
Hi there, I'm Tom, if it wasn't made a point by the name of the store and me introducing myself before. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And I'm glad I could come to a meeting like this. I mean, I've been here for so long, and I just now am really starting to get into the community more and more, and I love it. I went to middle school, high school here. It's a great place. I worked for the old company Petland Discounts, and they pretty much had every pet store in Astoria, and when they left, they kind of left a hole, and I figured I wanted to do something for the community and fill that hole. So I'm kind of trying to just give you guys a full-line pet store again and make it a little bit better than Petland. We're doing free delivery to all of Astoria's residents. We are doing 10% off Senior Sundays. We're doing lots of events. We have an adoption event for cats and dogs on November 30th, Small Business Saturday, which we're going to be also having huge sales for. We're also working on some programs where we can get some youth a bit more education with the animals. We're going to do free programs on Saturdays starting in January where you can come with your children and we'll do free animal training courses. Yeah, we have sales constantly throughout the month and, we're just here to help. My card is up front. All emails go directly to me. So if you have any questions, you can call. I'm there 7 days a week. And yeah.
And again, any questions? You can use this mic right here. Hold on. Oh, by the way, when you ask a question, please use the mic and give us your name. We do keep minutes. Okay?
Just getting used to the routine here. So anyway, I'm Pat Olmsted again, and I've bought a lot of pet supplies from the store before Tom owned it, and now when he owns it. But I think you should mention to them that one of the things that I think is so amazing that Tom does is I was there one day, and he had these darling little baby squirrels in there. And so he has a certification in rescuing animals, and he had rescued some baby squirrels from Astoria Park. So I just wanted to say that about him.
We do work, myself and other local wildlife rehabilitators. There's a lot of us around here, both federally licensed and state licensed. And if you have exotic questions, you can ask us. And I know you, Wellness Core, in the back.
Yeah. Well, use the mic and mention your name. I don't think I really need it. We're taking the minutes.
Oh, yeah. Hello, I am Tex for the minutes. Listen, the problem with the pet stores in this area, it's a lot like some of the grocery stores where they'll run out of the things that are in demand and then they don't reorder it and they sort of force you to buy the stuff you don't want to buy because they don't have what you want, or you just leave without purchasing anything, which is just as disappointing. I've noticed that every time I go into Tom's place, they have everything in stock, which is absolutely puts him way ahead of everybody else in this neighborhood. And the one time that he did not have what I was looking for, I asked him, is it possible you have it downstairs? And he said, you know what, maybe, let me go look. A minute later, he was bounding up the stairs carrying exactly what I needed. So I really want to endorse him. I hope that he has a great run in Astoria. And welcome. Thanks for participating.
Any other questions? Well, this is a great example. There's no better promotion than having your community speak highly of you. So congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, now for our first presentation. Okay. There's a lot of construction that's being done in the city, design work through many, many different agencies. And there's one agency that's sort of the hub to the wheel. I think that's the best way to describe it. So I'd like to bring up Jessica Douglas from the New York City Department of Design and Construction. This should be interesting. A lot of people don't know what they do, so this should be educational. Even for me, I'm not totally sure.
Thank you. Up until I started back in March, I didn't know what they did either. So while it's loading, once again, my name is Jessica Douglas. I'm the Assistant Director for the New York City Department of Design and Construction for the Intergovernmental and Community Affairs. So actually, I was the first Assistant Director that was hired to represent Queens. And I actually put this presentation together for new hirees so they have an idea what it is, because I didn't know what it is, so I'm not going to assume that they knew what it was coming in. You want me to? Yeah. Oh. Will it be okay if I sit and do it, or should I just stand up?
I'll move it.
Oh.
Go ahead. Just go up here and talk.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I'll do it.
So tonight I will be discussing 4 things. I'm going to talk more about what DDC is. I will be talking about infrastructure versus public buildings, what it means, some of our initiatives, and then I'll take questions and answers. So who are we? Department of Design and Construction, we basically became a department back in 1996 in the Giuliani administration. And prior to Department of Design and Construction, each agency basically did their own capital projects. The mayor at the time thought it was inefficient and decided to bring all of the capital projects under one roof. So when we talk about Department of Design and Construction, we divide things into 2, infrastructure and public buildings. So infrastructure is Infrastructure is basically things that we do underground. We work with the Department of Environmental Protection and Department of Transportation. So we do things like water mains, sewers, streets, and other infrastructure that keeps our city running smoothly. You could just keep clicking. So these are some infrastructure stuff like manholes, hydrants, catch basins, resurfacing, landscaping, water mains, sometimes private utilities, sewers, so on and so forth. So public buildings is everything that you see. That's a building that's owned by the city. So things we're talking about, libraries to firehouses to city halls, we will build and renovate. And some of the things that we don't build is like NYCHA. And here, next one. Go very quick. So when we talk about infrastructure and public buildings, we have what are known as sponsor agencies. So DEDC do not fund any of these projects that you see. That comes through the sponsor agency. So some of the sponsor agencies are, just keep clicking. Keep going. DCAS, Department of Corrections, Environmental Protection, Parks Department, Transportation, NYPD, FDNY, the library system. So once again, we do not fund any projects. We get the projects from the sponsor agency. So some of the projects we have, you could just keep clicking 3 times. Okay, so some of the projects that we have within CB1, 3 times. Is QED 1005, QED 1014, and these are basically the water main projects that you see that's happening in Astoria. And the Astoria Library is currently in design. We're going to do some upgrades, which is next door, to make it more accessible, more ADA accessible bathrooms and elevators. As of right now, the project is scheduled for construction in winter 2020, and it will last 2 years, as of today. If things change, don't kill me. I'm telling you stuff as of today. So some of the initiatives we have at DDC, we have 2. One of them is our STEAM. Initiative, and this is where we go in schools, in Title I schools, and work with the students, and just to educate them about some stuff that's related to science, technology, engineering, architect or art and mathematics through internships, after school programs, and in the summer we usually bring them in to DDC, and they will work with some of our architects and designers. And another one is our MWBE initiative. Oh, better? Okay. MWBE initiative, where we would work with minority and women-owned businesses as well as new businesses to help them compete with city contracts. And within this program, we would pair them up with people who have been doing it longer so they could be mentored through the process and how to obtain contracts within DDC. And basically, that's all I have for today. Any questions? All right, thank you.
So are there any questions? Well, I'll start here.
Hi, so when you were referring to infrastructure, Tom Ryan, one word, Tom Ryan. When you were referring to infrastructure, such as storm drains and whatnot, are you only involved when it's actually new work, or is it like who handles the maintenance of the curbs of what exists now? The drains, if I see a drain that's like popping out of the ground, does that fall under your realm, or is that?
No, we only do the construction. What happens before and after that will be the sponsor agency. So in this case, it would be DEP. But if you're talking about curbs, that's more so DOT, Department of Transportation.
Okay. Any other questions?
Oh, there's one over here.
Yes. Okay. Hold on. Go ahead.
Oh, gosh. Give your name.
Okay, Pat Olmsted again. Anyway, I wanted to find out when Con Edison is involved. Like right now, over on Crescent Street, they seem to be doing a lot of work over there. Is your organization involved with that? When they're doing
No,
infrastructure
Con
there?
Edison is private utilities. There are
Okay.
times we would do a joint bid with them and we would do the work for them.
Okay.
But if you want, I could take down the address and your information. I could get back to you and see whether or not if it's Con Ed or if it's us doing work for Con Ed.
Okay.
Okay.
They wake us up a lot in the morning.
Most likely it's Con Ed then.
Mark Goldberg, do you have anything to do with the step streets in the city?
Can you please elaborate?
You know what step streets are? That's my other documentary. Step streets, it goes street. It goes elevated grade is too much to have a street, so they build steps and stairs. There are 102 in the city, 64 of them are in the Bronx. The rest are in Upper Manhattan, Upper Staten Island, Bay Ridge, and I think there might be some in Queens I haven't found out. But I need a list of them.
Okay, I think that's more. If there are those streets, I probably would refer you to Department of City Planning or DOT will be the best ones. And also we have someone from the councilman's office right there, Nick Rollison. You can follow up with him. So
Not anymore. All right, Tony Rodriguez. Just curious, does DDC organize and coordinate the construction, or? I mean, I'm still a little confused about what you guys actually do.
Okay. What you mean by organized?
Well, are you part of the master design where the streets are going to be repaired, what sewers are going to be done, or is DEP involved in that, and you're just coordinating?
DEP, because when it's streets, is DOT involved with it. When it's sewers, is DEP involved with it. And if they want to, they give us the project so we could do it. For example, with Department of Transportation, they repave the streets. We don't have nothing to do with that. They don't give it to us. They do that themselves.
Right, but do you coordinate that?
No, they do it themselves.
Only new construction, okay.
New capital projects,
Yes.
basically, yeah. I mean, and I know I'm on the community board, and some of us are here also from the community board, and I know that often the Parks Department will come to us or another department. They will ask us to submit a letter supporting the project that is addressed to the DDC. So, and my question is, you just said if they want to give it, do the agencies have a choice?
They do have a choice.
They can handle everything in-house? They don't have to go through you?
Exactly.
Huh. Any other questions? Nick? Yeah. Any other questions?
I just have one. Tom Ryan again. The apprenticeship or where you were bringing young people in from, like, is it from middle school age?
Yes, middle school, high school, and college.
And is that an official thing where they have to apply and be accepted and vetted? How does that happen? Would you guys promote this in the schools directly?
We do promote it in the schools directly, but if you want, I could definitely follow up step by step with the STEAM department because I always see the kids around, so they do exist. But I don't know how they get into the building.
Tex again. So if they can do it in-house or go to you, what makes them come to you?
Sometimes they don't want to deal with the headache.
The size or the complexity?
Yes.
Or so you guys can handle a more complex project than
Yes.
their?
Okay, you would put out the RFPs, you go through the whole process through yourselves, right?
Yes, once we receive the project.
Okay. Okay. Well, we do hope that you get the library done soon. Whatever can you do to expedite this a little bit?
Okay, I'll take that back.
And we've been waiting for it for a number of years now. So I know that actually the councilman's office with the borough president, I'm not sure the exact number. How much is invested in this project now? $6 to $8 million upgrade that is coming to the Astoria Library, which is great. Another thing, too, I think that EDC was saying, or excuse me, not EDC, Environmental was saying that you had a hand in dealing with the overflow on Shore Boulevard.
Yes.
Yeah, and what exactly would that be? Because we have flooding on Shore Boulevard, as many of you know, quite often. We've been trying to alleviate this for years. So what is your part in this? Do you know?
Nick, are we doing work there right now?
Yeah, on Shore Boulevard. Hold on. Yep. No.
It's okay.
I just spoke yesterday with DEP, and they're just beginning construction now. That was a project that had to get approved by New York State Department of Environmental Conservation because it's on the water. Whenever you touch the water, DEC has to get involved. I don't think DEC is doing the work. I think it's all through DEP. So that should be done this month.
That'd be amazing. Good. Okay. Great. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you again for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Good. You've solved the mystery. Good. Good. Okay. Next. I'm sure that some of you have noticed some new vehicles on the streets recently in Astoria. And you may question as to exactly what they are and how they work. We are lucky enough to have the company that provides these, REVEL, or REVEL? How do you say it? REVEL. Okay. 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 And I'd like to introduce them.
Lauren Vreens, I'm the general manager for New York.
I'm John White. I'm the community affairs manager for REVEL. So we just have a quick presentation for you folks tonight that we're going to go into to give you a background on what REVEL is, who we are, where the company comes from here. And also at the front, I left some literature, so some pamphlets outlining what REVEL is, how the program works, what our veterans discount is, and how to get into our access program. So, cool. And also, just to start out, the food tonight was really good. It's been a long time since I've had sausage and peppers that good. Unbelievable. So, great. So, what is REVEL? So, I kind of went into it. It's a shared moped that you might be seeing all throughout Astoria at the moment. So, just to level set, it is not a scooter. It is not an e-bike. It is a motor vehicle. It is a Class B motor vehicle throttled at 30 miles an hour with a license plate and a VIN number. In order to access it, you have to have a regular driver's license. So this is not an e-bike. We are a separate company. We are a moped. So it's like a Vespa. Cool. So how does it work? So what you would do is you would download the app on your phone. You put in your driver's license. You take a picture of yourself and your driver's license. And then what we do is a license check. And so what we do on our end is we make sure in the last 5 years you haven't had a DWI, any dangerous driving violations, or just to make sure that your license is valid. So that takes about 15 to 20 minutes on our end, and then you just look for the nearest REVEL, you reserve it, and you can ride anywhere in Brooklyn and Queens, from Astoria down to Sunset Park, from the East River to Crown Heights is our service area. So this company started in 2018 in Brooklyn with 3 service areas, 68 mopeds, and in May of this year we expanded to Astoria, and now we're 1,000 mopeds with over 20 communities. And the response has been incredible. So what we're seeing is not only the relationships that we have with local elected officials and police precincts being supportive, but we're seeing that neighborhoods are coming out and really appreciating the service. And we're seeing that not only in what we're hearing, but in the amount of rides. So the REVELs themselves are being used over 7 times a day, and on the weekends between 10 and 15 times a day. They are constantly moving. They're very rarely just sitting. The average ride is between 3 and 5 miles. So what we're seeing is instead of folks taking an Uber or their vehicle, they're using REVEL to get from neighborhood to neighborhood. And for us, we really know that that's how we're filling a first mile, last mile void. We're here to help people cut down on their commute times. Now me, I'm from the Bronx, right? And what I saw when I would have to walk to the BX16, that was a 15-minute walk, and then it would be a 10-minute bus ride. And I had to do that just to get to the 4 train every day. So that's 25 minutes. I'm not hanging out with my family. That's 25 minutes every morning, and then every night, I'm not hanging out with my dog. I love my dog. He's a good dog. What REVEL does is it allows people to get time back into their lives. An hour and a half of just not having to worry about their commute. So we're a good community member. What we've done since we started in 2018 is we didn't just drop the mopeds on the street. We had conversations with local elected officials, with community boards, with police precincts. And we wanted to make sure that they knew who we were in case they had any issues with the service. So we've met with Councilman Van Bramer. I actually, earlier this week, spoke at the local transportation committee for the community board for CB2. We've met with... we met with Councilman Constantinides' office as well. Thumbs up. And so what we're trying to do is make sure that we're a good community member because we're from here. So my goddaughter lives on 18th Street. Like, we're the CEOs from Staten Island. A lot of us are local folks. We're not just coming in and dropping vehicles that are just going to be used willy-nilly. We're people who are actually, it's our grandmothers, it's our sisters, it's our sons on the streets. And so that's why we want to make sure that we're a good community member. So we're about access. So as you can see here, this is a map of the current service area. But what we also do is we know that travel and commuting is difficult. And we know that transit is a public good. And because of that, we want to make sure that everyone has the ability to use REVEL. So if you're on any kind of government assistance, Medicare, Medicaid, SNAP, we offer the Equitable Access Program. So that means you get 40% off your ride. So in a lot of cases, it's cheaper than definitely an Uber, but in some cases, the subway or the bus. So if you have to take the bus from one community to another and transfer to another, our discount makes it so that you don't have to pay as much money. And all you have to do to get into that program is you just email us a picture of a document, some proof, and we just enroll you in the program. So we're a local employer. So in 2018, we started with 10 employees, and today, we're almost 200. Of those 200 employees, 130 are hourly wage workers. We do not participate in the gig economy. We are on 3 8-hour shifts. These are anywhere from mechanics helpers, technicians, coders. Folks are on 8-hour shifts, 3 shifts a day in warehouses, in a warehouse in Red Hook in Brooklyn. We did that because we knew it was the right thing to do. We wanted to make sure that we had the best workforce possible, and we couldn't do that with the economy. And it didn't fit with our culture because we wanted to make sure that the folks who worked for us were part of a community within the company. And we knew we couldn't do that with the gig economy. So also, we're constantly expanding. So if you know anyone who's looking for work, anywhere from management to customer service, or definitely any mechanics, please come talk to us. We are happy to take any resumes. So we care about safety. So every moped has 2 DOT certified helmets. Now, we did that before anyone asked us to. We did it because it was the right thing. We wanted to make sure that if you used our service, you were complying with the law. So everyone has a smaller helmet and a bigger helmet that you can use. You just pop it open, put it on your head, and you go. We offer less than 7 days a week at our headquarters in Gowanus. And many weekends, what we're doing is our folks are going around and offering lessons in neighborhoods throughout Brooklyn and Queens. We are a responsible and responsive company. So the speed on the vehicle is throttled at 30 miles an hour. We are the only service that screens every user. We make sure that you have a clean driving record before you can get involved in the service. We have so many people. We want to make sure that we only get the best folks involving themselves in our service. If you don't follow the rules, REVEL's not for everybody. If you don't follow the rules, it's not for you. And so because of that, we suspend and fine every user who, say, doesn't wear a helmet, goes the wrong way down the street, is driving on the sidewalk or in a bike lane. So not only do we have folks out on the street who take pictures, community members after talking to us, we have the REVEL Rangers. We have our battery swap teams. They are constantly going throughout the neighborhoods in which we serve to make sure that the folks who are using our service are complying with the rules. We also have strong relationships with the police to make sure that they're pulling over folks who aren't wearing helmets. If they are riding dangerously, a lot of times they'll actually call us up to let us know that someone has been riding dangerously, and what we do then is we suspend them and fine them and then eventually kick them out of the service. Because for us, it's about being safe. It's about being responsible and responsive to the communities in which we serve. And finally, the moment you hop on the vehicle, you have third-party liability insurance. So you don't have to opt in. So it's not like when you rent a car and you check a box and you say, do I want insurance? Do I not want insurance? Do I want to roll the dice? No. The moment you hop on a moped, a REVEL moped, you have insurance. So what we have here is our customer support number and the email. And also we have Lauren's email, who is happy to be responsible to any questions you have. So, and she will get back to you, or someone from our team will. So yeah. Good.
So, who has questions? We will start over here. Vanessa?
Hi, Vanessa Jones Hall. Sorry, I'm a little hoarse. Are these vehicles able to go on the highway? What's the limit on the vehicles?
So these vehicles, because they're a Class B motor vehicle, they are not allowed to go on the highway. So they can only be on local streets, and the speed is throttled at 30 miles an hour. So you cannot go over 30 miles an hour by using the throttle.
Okay. Other questions?
Liz Chin. Actually, it's more about comments about REVEL. Since the summer, I've already seen like 2 accident wipeouts right here on the corner. Are these statistics like reported back to you when an incident happens, things like that? Like one of the scooters like literally drove into another car, like a moving car.
Yeah, no. So I appreciate that. So the statistics are reported back to us, and what we've found is 99.99% of all rides end incident-free. Okay. So we're seeing that we have almost 1 million rides, and of that million, over 99.99% incident-free.
Because it's scary. The second one I saw, it was 2 people on a REVEL, and they wiped out in front of a car in the middle of the intersection here. And that's pretty dangerous for a neighborhood like this. And I just don't know what to think about these scooters here. Plus that, and then parking in the street. They're parking between parked cars, and once they park there, you can't get your car out because there's no room left. Things like that. So, does anybody else have any kind of concerns like regarding things like that in the neighborhood?
Maybe we'll get this comment over here first, and then we can expand on it. Yeah, he's bringing the mic over. Right.
Karen Olszewski. I was going to raise a couple of issues that I have seen. One is I went onto your site so I could see what the rules are. I'm a Google crazy person. But and I saw that they have to put the vehicle in a spot that will be a legal spot for 24 hours. Mm-hmm. One of the things that's happening on and on is that they are leaving them in driveways. And not 1, but 2 at a time, 3 at a time, in driveways. Or they're parking where it's not going to be legal for alternate side. Those of us who have to move our cars get a little annoyed by that because they're just sitting there. I have seen one get a ticket because I know that's your policy, but it doesn't happen all the time. I've seen them not get. The other issue, aside from the parking issue, is I saw you said that there's a class. Is it a mandated class that people have a review of, that they have to follow the same rules as the general motorist? Is that what it is, or?
So there's a lot of questions in there, but
okay.
So we have lessons that we offer at our headquarters 7 days a week. And so that's just to get people more familiar with riding a moped. But when people sign up for the service, they're confirming that they are familiar with riding a moped and they know how to ride a moped. And when they've signed up, there's videos and instructions in there, just kind of reminders and refreshers, particularly with how to park. And so we remind all of our riders to park in what we call dead space. So between parked cars, there typically is, what you need is about 4 feet of space to park a Revel. You typically can find that, or it's either at the end of the street, between a crosswalk and the first parked car. It's actually quite easy to find parking for a Revel. That said, sometimes our users are not necessarily parking the right way. So as you mentioned, if they park if they get a ticket within 24 hours of parking, that ticket goes to them. And so users are learning. They're learning this service has really only been kind of taking over in the last 4 months. And so users are learning. They're talking to their friends saying, hey, I got a parking ticket. Make sure you park legally. But also, we do have what John mentioned is our Revel Rangers program. And so that's our employees who are out in the streets actually moving Revels, making sure they're parked legally, and also keeping an eye on riders and making sure that they're following the rules as well. But if there is a particular area that's really causing problems for you, it's your driveway or it's a particular corner, that like things are always being parked illegally, that's why we give out our phone number. We want to know. We want to hear from you. Then we can, suspend users. We can talk to them. We can find them. We can try and change their behavior.
Because I've noticed there are more and more on the road, which is a good thing. I guess it's a necessity. But they are doing a lot of what the bicycles do, which is in this paper here, about not stopping at stop signs. And around the schools, I've noticed as a grandma picking up, that, and I've yelled at them, and they don't seem to understand. They have to follow, am I right, that they are to follow the same rules?
Yes,
Okay.
100%.
Now,
I yell at them too, to everyone at our company as well.
So there's a lot of yelling going on.
We're trying to create this culture of responsibility,
Right.
And we think we're close because we're holding people accountable. There are license plates. People send us photos all the time. Other users are reporting other users, and we are seeing that actually the behavior is improving over time. But as John said, it's actually quite low. Like with the number of rides we're seeing, the incidents are minor. We've had so many people sign up that we're not hesitating to kick people off the service who don't follow the rules. Okay. So blowing through a stop sign in your school, 100% unacceptable. We want to know about that so we can hold people accountable.
Okay, thank you.
Mark Goldberg, my question is about how do you get the moped out of your zone? Say if I want to go from Astoria to Forest Hills, and what's my time limit on a normal? Right, and if I go to Forest Hills, do I just have to return it to the regular area?
Yes, so there is a zone that we have, which is basically from Astoria down to Sunset Park, and that's the zone where you have to end your ride. But if you wanted to ride to Forest Hills, you could. You just need to pause it when you're there and then return it to the zone when you're done. And so the way that the pricing works is it's $1 to start and then 25 cents a minute. And then if you wanted to pause it, it's 10 cents a minute to keep it paused. So we have people that drive outside the zone all the time. Someone will go to Coney Island for the day and then drive back to the zone when they're done. And I know that pricing maybe sounds kind of high. It's by the minute, but all of our users are actually surprised at how affordable it is. It is much cheaper than an Uber or a Lyft, and that's what they're using. But that's what they're using Revel to replace.
Questions? Yes.
Well, this might be obvious from looking at it, but I haven't guessed. Can you carry groceries on there? It looks like the backpack is probably for the helmets. So is there another container that you could stick groceries on? And if you did use it for that, where would you park it? Can you park it like a bicycle? I think you sort of answered that. Or do you have to roam around the lot, put it in the lot, and hope somebody doesn't back their SUV into it?
Do you mean parking in like a grocery store, like parking lot? Is that what you're referring to?
Well, yes. I mean, in other words, could you pull up to near the front door and park it as if it were a bicycle, where, with bicycle you're kind of casual about where you put it, or would you go out in the parking lot and put it in the lot, and somebody is going to back over it with their SUV probably because they can't see it?
So it has to be parked as if it is a car. So like a motorcycle would park, like a Vespa would park, it has to be in a car parking spot. Groceries, depends how many groceries you're buying. So every moped in the front, there's a little hook that you could actually attach like a plastic bag to or something like that. And you could probably fit a bag in the helmet case as well. You're wearing one of the helmets that frees up a little bit of space. But it is not really designed to be carrying large amounts of things. You want to be able to have a good balance. But maybe that's our next iteration, is some sort of grocery carrying mechanism. Backpacks, very good option as well.
Awesome. Grace Lollard over here. I'm sorry, I'm behind the pole. You can't see me. Hi. Oh, hello. I really want to try it, but my trepidation is like, I noticed a couple weeks ago on Astoria Park South, there was a scooter that was perfectly legally parked in between two cars with plenty of space, but it was on the ground, like someone knocked it over. I know you guys have kind of, you have the 24-hour rule, like, you know, like you'll get ticketed or fined or something, you know, if something happens to the Revel after, but like, what if it's not your fault at all and you follow the rules? And like, I don't want to be accountable for the scooter if I followed all of the rules correctly. Yeah, take pictures. Like, this is how I left it.
Yeah, so there's certain things that that we recognize are probably not a user's fault. So if a Revel is on the ground, typically it's because a car has backed up into it. And so we're not going to hold a user accountable for that. If, you know, and this happens, unfortunately, but sometimes people will drag a Revel onto a sidewalk because they want that parking spot, which is actually very challenging to do because they're heavy, but there's very motivated people out there. And then we don't hold the user accountable if that happens to get a ticket as well, because we just know 99% of the time that's not the user's fault.
So it's like case by case, and you keep the communication open if you're going to find somebody. Is that kind of...
definitely, yeah. So our customer support team is on call pretty much. They shut down between 1 a.m. and 5 a.m. That's when our service also shuts down. But they're there all the rest of the time. They're in Brooklyn. You know, they're not in the Philippines. They're happy to chat through with you. We know that this is a new service. We want people to really love Revel, and so we're working with our users. We're not just slamming fines on people unless it's really, really clear that they've done something egregious.
My name's Josh Vetter. I have kind of a comment and a question. The comment is, if there's a lot of people doing things illegal, is there any plans to, I think there should be plans to include in the app a way in which you can take a photograph or video if it's not already there, so that other users can easily report these things. Even if it's something like an overturned scooter, they could also just snap a picture and send it. Do you guys have any plans of that, or?
So, yes, definitely. Right now, it's our email address, so support@gorevel.com. So, because not everyone in the community is going to download the app, and we want everyone to be able to report stuff that's maybe problematic in their communities. But also just to kind of emphasize what John said is that the vast majority of our riders are actually good riders and are following the rules. And yes, we've all seen some people break the rules, but so many people are actually riding responsibly, and I think that's really positive. But 100%, yeah, we'll look into working that into our app over time. Yeah.
My other question is that I love to see that it's in this community. I think there's a lot of communities east of Steinway Street that are not served right now. And I'm just wondering if you have any plans to roll it out more to less accessible communities.
Yes, definitely. You've already predicted everything. Yes, we would love to be serving as much of Brooklyn and Queens as possible. So we're looking at that for next year. Yeah.
We'll ask a couple more questions, and I'd like to bring up the next presenter, but I want you to stay.
Well, thank you for coming and making it clear that you were willing to work with the community. That's awesome. That's what we need more of. My question is, are you looking to eliminate City Bike, hopefully?
We view ourselves as just one good transit option for people. So no, unfortunately, we're not anti-City Bike. A lot of our people in our company, you know, like John will tell these stories that like you use multiple modes of transportation. And so maybe one day you want a City Bike because you feel like getting in some extra exercise. He's saying no, not him. But sometimes you want to, stay cool. So you're going to take a Revel, and then sometimes you're going to take the subway, and sometimes you're going to take an Uber because you've got a bunch of bags.
One day the ferry.
Yeah, or you're going to take the ferry. And so we want this city to be built in a way where you can take multiple modes of transportation depending on what fits your day.
Are you getting any pushback on expansion?
No, I mean, everyone we've talked to has been very, very positive, actually. I think it has a lot to do with our founders and how they want to run this company. is that we're proactively going out and meeting with people. We want there to be an open line of communication. We recognize this is a public right of way, and we want to be responsible actors. And I think that's been really appreciated from everyone we've met with so far. Yeah.
Okay. One thing that was brought to my attention. Do you want to say anything? Any questions? No. Well, one thing that was brought to my attention by somebody is there a thought towards making fluorescent helmets or with reflectors on them, so that at night when they're going down the road, the helmets, will help identify it?
Yes, we actually have had that suggestion for other reasons too, because it's also hard to tell if someone's wearing a helmet because they're dark. Maybe they have dark hair. So yes, we're looking into that as well. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah. No, we love this feedback, so keep it coming. Yep. Yeah, because we're looking to continually improve.
One of the things, if you saw in the beginning, that the recent position that we took, the op-ed, is really discussing these various modes of transportation and how people have to start to act responsibly. And traffic controls have to be installed, but they also have to be followed. And anything you can do to, within your ridership to penalize those that don't, I think in the long run is going to help those and help everybody, because people have to pay a price sometimes. So,
yeah,
okay, well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And also, what we try and do here is I try and get presenters that have something to do with each other. So along those lines, I'm really privileged to have the transportation unit of the New York Police Department, Sergeant Gilpin.
Hi, again, I'm Sergeant Gifkins. I work for the Chief of Transportation, Chief Thomas Chan, for the New York City Police Department. We operate out of One Police Plaza in downtown Manhattan, but we have citywide access. We were formed about 2 years ago, and what we do is we go around the community, the entire city, and we do a lot of education and outreach. We do a lot of work at senior centers, our most vulnerable populations, our schools. We do a lot of work with third graders, which is the first time you're really starting to walk to school by yourself, learning how to operate in a school. Traditionally, DOT has been operating under the Vision Zero Forum for the last 6 years now, and they usually had the lead on education outreach, which for one thing allowed DOT to kind of control the narrative and explain the way they want to explain it. Us, with the unique experiences being police officers, we understand kind of the other side of it. We're the ones responding to the collisions. We're the ones dealing with the families. We're the ones that have to deal with kind of the aftermath. We know the requisite to driving responsible. We know what you have to do. We know there are ways. We know there are emergencies. So sometimes you have to kind of not bend the rules, but you need to kind of do what you have to do. And we understand that. And we need to be able to work with the community so we can all kind of share the roads together. As we've done with these other new modes of transportation, we've had to adapt and learn. We have to learn how to deal with City Bike and DOT's bike lanes and REVEL and all these other ways of getting around the city. So we're trying to do a lot we can to education-wise. We do the occasional response to a collision investigation, squad investigation. So if it's on scene, something that's high profile, that the family feels they're not getting the proper response from our highway investigation squad, we'll show up. We'll make sure that they understand that they're getting all the information they need. But we're also responsive to the community. If you have specific things that you need done, that's what we're trying to get out and learn. The police department, over the last 2 years under Commissioner O'Neill, has pushed towards a collaborative policing model. The neighborhood coordination officers is what they've been working towards. We are kind of that model for transportation. We want to make sure that we understand your needs and concerns, and we work with the entire community. You guys work a lot with your local precincts. You guys are the 114, and I believe also the 108 to a degree in Astoria. But so we want to be able to make sure they have all the resources they need from the Transportation Bureau to handle everything they can. Obviously, I did not have a presentation put together tonight, but as a cop of 16 years, I've been taught to think on my feet. So that's kind of what I'm working with here. One of the campaigns I do want to make sure I get the information across for right now, that we are collaborating a lot with DOT, with TLC, with Board of Education, is our Dust to Darkness campaign. So traditionally, these months coming up, when the sun sets earlier and you run into where it crosses over with our rush hour, and the PM specifically, the AM is not as bad, but the PM specifically, you get an influx of pedestrians and cyclists on the road at a time otherwise vehicles aren't expecting to see them and have a harder time seeing them during that rush hour, during the dark. Just to throw some numbers at you, just so you know, citywide year to date, we are at 191 fatal collisions in the traffic environment versus 170 last year. We are up 21 than we were last year. That sounds atrocious. To put in perspective, last year we had 202 fatals the entire year. That's less than they had when the Model T rolled off the line. We are moving in the right direction. We are down about 30% since Vision Zero started in terms of our fatal collisions. So as much as there is an uptick this year, we are still progressing in the right direction. And you guys in Queens, just so you're aware, Queens North specifically, so the borough of Queens is split into two patrol boroughs, Queens North and Queens South. You guys fall into Queens North. You guys are at 28 fatal collisions year to date versus last year, the same year to date, you had 31. So although citywide, we've had a little bit of a blip and we've gone up, you guys have continued to go down. More specifically, in the 108th precinct, which is the southern portion of Astoria, is you guys are at 3 fatals versus 8 last year. Part of that is good design. They've done a lot of work towards Queens Boulevard. They've done a lot of work towards Northern Boulevard. Specifically, the Transportation Bureau has been out on Northern Boulevard. We're out here for the 3rd time this year, specifically targeting Northern Boulevard. We're trying to make sure that it is one of the safer roadways in New York City, not what it got blamed for last year, which was the new Boulevard of Death. After we've done all the work towards Queens Boulevard, we don't want to find out that Northern Boulevard is going to fill that void. We've been sending out units from our Citywide Traffic Task Force, which is about 300 members of the New York City Police Department that turn out of Manhattan. They usually deal with all of our parades, our details in Manhattan, general traffic management. They deal with our holiday plan. They deal with our presidential moves. They deal with the UN General Assembly. We've been sending them out in droves all year long. To our specific, we've dedicated about 8 different hotspots throughout the city, Northern Boulevard being one of those, that we're sending them out on 2 shifts a day, minimum 4 cars from Citywide Traffic Task Force, in addition to a heightened awareness to our traffic agents, additional tow trucks, additional foot patrol, and additional motor patrol. We've been doing high visibility. All these cars should have their turret lights on at all times. So you see them. You're aware of them. Simply knowing the cops are out there should make you make a more proper decision a lot of the times. Hopefully. Back to the numbers that I was just referring to with the Dust to Darkness campaign. So just to be more aware in this month and what's going forward, just so you guys are aware, in Queens last year in 2018, Queens North, the average collisions in Queens North was 111 per month for pedestrian collisions. In October, it spikes up to 132. In November, it goes up to 175. In December, 192. It is all because pedestrians are now on a street when you're otherwise not expecting to see them. All we ask is drivers, be considerably more careful. We understand there are more bikes on the street. I've personally noticed, I don't know if you have, the city bike someone brought up before. In the last about month or two, I've noticed about 25% of them, their lights aren't working. They're mandated to have lights, and we're working as to why they're not working. But I don't know whether it was the switch that they went over to switch from Motivate to Lyft, that there's something with the software. But either way, they're not properly getting charged, and their lights aren't working. Be considerably more careful. Look for them. Understand that they're not always going to be on the bike lanes. If you're a pedestrian, try and wear something reflective, something bright. Make sure you be seen. Don't assume the driver's going to see you. It's that much harder. They don't know you're there. They're looking around. If you guys weren't aware, left turns for a vehicle are 3 times more likely to cause a fatal collision than a right turn. So when you're a pedestrian and you're looking for a vehicle making a left turn, they can't see you. Generally speaking, the A-pillar in a vehicle, when making a left turn, obstructs your view for about 5% of that turn. So you will completely disappear as a pedestrian. Second, physically, left turns are typically made at a wider angle than a right turn. A right turn is a more perpendicular angle because we drive on the right-hand road of the street, which means you cover more of the crosswalk when making that turn, and you make it about 3 to 5 miles per hour faster. It is about a 30% increased chance of fatal collision between a 35-mile-an-hour turn and a 25-mile-an-hour. We need to make sure that we're driving slower, we're driving more carefully, and we're looking for pedestrians and cyclists. From a cycling perspective, just to be aware, when DOT published their green wave perspective that is part of what we're looking at in the op-ed today, I believe they stated the numbers were something along the line of, in the last 4 years, 90% of our fatal collisions of cyclists occurred on roadways without bike facilities. Now that entails a bike lane or a city bike dock, something along that line that entails look for cyclists. So if you're a cyclist, go 2 blocks out of your way to that bike lane. DOT is rapidly increasing the amount of bike lanes that are out there, but they're putting them in places that they think they fit. We know they're trying to shoehorn them everywhere they possibly can. If there's not a bike lane there now, it's probably because it doesn't fit. Try and take your cycle someplace else where there is a bike lane. I'm not trying to discourage cycling, but I want to encourage safe cycling. Make sure you take it that extra block out of the way, so this way we know. Generally speaking, the cyclist advocates will tell you there's safety in numbers. I believe them to be correct. There's not only safety in numbers, but if I'm driving a car and I see a bike lane on the street, before I make that turn, I'm looking for a bike. Whether they see another cyclist or not, who knows? But make sure if you're driving and you see paint on the street, look for that cyclist. Just one last number was, so November of 2018, which was last year, 2018, your numbers for Queens North in terms of pedestrian injuries, 76 pedestrian injuries, 45% of those were between the hours of 4 and 7 p.m. Everybody's getting hit in that p.m. rush hour. Make sure you are specifically careful for yourself, for your children, for our seniors. Our seniors make up an inordinate amount of our fatalities. Unfortunately, when they get hit by a car, they don't have the reaction time to put their hands down. They break something. They end up in the hospital. They end up with an infection. They end up dying. We need to make sure we protect our seniors, make sure that they're seen. Like I said, wear something reflective, wear something bright. Stop at that intersection. Even if it says walk, take that extra look. A lot of the cyclists aren't necessarily going to stop at that red light. We know that. We've had 2 pedestrian fatalities in Midtown Manhattan alone this year from cyclists running over pedestrians. Now, when you think about the volume of rides that occur, that's not a lot. But it does happen. It's not something that, oh man, the cyclists are going to kill everybody. Think about it. We have 8.3 million people in New York City. That's not including tourists. We have who knows how many people are signed up for City Bike at this time, besides your messengers, besides everybody else. 2 people. That's all we've had run over by cyclists. That doesn't mean that it can't happen, but it also just means look for them. Okay? And that's on both ends. Adrian Allen? No? All right.
Bravo. Good. Yeah, I hope that, what you're talking about, too, if you heard the beginning, the statement that we put out, again, about, getting rid of blame and just, we shouldn't have to worry and blame the other party about what an issue is. At the end of the day, both parties are scarred.
Correct.
So we just need to create solutions that work. And, too much rhetoric of people going after each other, I think. So anyways, who has questions?
Hello, my name is Gail.
Hello, Gail.
So my family and I, we have a small school bus business. I am a school bus driver as well. Now, specifically today, I had an incident in the afternoon where I was dropping off a child in the daycare. And, you put your lights on 2 blocks before. Once you arrive to your location, you're ready to open the door. You make sure no cars are coming. Now, what scares me the most is the fact that people, I've noticed, do not respect the stop sign. And that's the scariest part for me because we're dealing with children, a lot of children, not just 1, not just 2, a lot of children. And I had this car waiting next to me, waiting for me to finish dropping off the child so this person can rush to the front of me and just continue going about their way, okay? And it was very scary because not only that car did it, but I had other people following wanting to do the same thing, which I'm just like, are you kidding me? Like, you can't do that. We're dealing with kids, dropping them off, and you have to have patience. Once I go, then you can go ahead or do whatever you want to do. What do I do to prevent something like that? Because also it's not just cars, it's scooters, bikes, they're really ready to just rush on the side where I'm dropping off kids, and it's like, listen, a stop sign is a stop sign. You have to wait until a kid is dropped off, and then once my stop sign is out, then you can go. So what do you do in these cases, or what we do?
Right. So first thing I would do, if it continues to happen at a specific location, find out what precinct that's happening. You can go onto nyc.gov or the NYPD website, find out what precinct it's happening on. Contact that precinct. Every precinct has a highway safety team, which their number one thing is obviously safety. That's all they do is traffic tickets. They go out, they make sure that everybody's enforcing the law. A lot of the times, all it takes is the presence of a police officer in a location to be there. So if the highway safety team isn't necessarily able to be there, every precinct also has a youth officer. Their specific job is schools. So if it's while you're discharging at a school, we can try and make sure that the youth officer is there. Simply the presence of a car being there might discourage others from doing it as well.
Right. It was actually a private daycare, so it wasn't like a school.
Okay.
So even so, like, what do I do? It's not like I can take off my phone and take a picture.
And that wouldn't really do us any good anyway. Okay. What you really want to do is you want to get the local precinct involved. You want to make sure they're aware of it. If it's continued to happen in the same location over and over again, find out not only the precinct, but if you can, what the sector is, or contact the precinct. They'll tell you what sector it is, and they'll also tell you when the build the block meeting is. That's a meeting that our neighborhood coordination officers have been having with every precinct, every sector, the entire city. And they're there to make sure they address your concerns. Usually the executive officer, so the second in command, will be at that meeting, as well as officers that are specifically charged with protecting that sector. They will disseminate the information to everything across the board. If it's happening in the 108, I'm sure Officer Chaco goes.
Where did that happen? Is that an isolated incident? That's us. That's the 114th. Yes.
Right. Like,
Now.
Between 45th Ave and 40th Street and 46th Street.
Right over by the Boulevard buildings. Yes. Yeah. Okay, so did that happen at an isolated time, or was it continually happening at
I've seen it happen not every single day, but at least once a week. I'm dealing with
Okay. Yeah, that's something that. But like the sergeant was saying, if there's specific locations, specific times where there's incidents that are occurring chronically, please make us aware, because we do have an NCO program here. We have officers that are dedicated to that specific neighborhood or that specific sector where you could be having your problem, and we'd be glad to address it. So let's talk after, and I'll get all the minor details.
Just one last point to you. I saw today a blog. It could be wrong, but I think Cuomo was pushing for the possibility of automated enforcement on school bus stop signs, the inclusion of cameras on school bus stop signs. I don't know where that stands, and it was just something I saw today, but something that might be worth just kind of looking into. Our policy is always, I don't make the law, I simply enforce the law. But if it was something you wanted to look into to possibly lobby for, that might be an opportunity, something that might help your cause.
I want to take this opportunity quickly. Remember, if you have other questions, but I'd like to bring up Principal from PS 171. Okay. Lisa Stone. And no, I didn't want you to disappear. I just wanted to hear what she had to say. Because no. So she has issues that she's having at her school having to do with child safety. So I thought that you might want to discuss this. So, good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lisa Stone. I am the principal at PS 171, right here on 29th Avenue and between 14th and 21st Streets. I've been there for the past 3 years. When I first arrived at PS 171, about a month into my stay, I received a visit from the crossing guard who was hysterical crying. She came to me and she had her pants completely stained. She was burned because as she was trying to cross a child, a car came flying by her, refused to stop, and threw a hot cup of coffee at her. Needless to say, she was burned. Okay? Needless to say, this is what we have going on to get our children to school safely every single day, to have our children coming home safely every single day. My school starts, my doors open at 7:15. My children can be in school until 5:30 at night. Okay? It is dark when my children leave. We need to have a safe corridor for our children who have to travel east to come to school. They come from the water, and their homes are bringing them east. We're fortunate that our children do not cross 21st Street. The children who have to cross 21st Street have an added dilemma of trying to get across 21st Street safely. We cannot get our children to cross 14th Street because we cannot get people to stop. As you may know, 21st Street is a mess in the morning when it comes to traffic. Many of the people who are traveling south on 21st Street decide to make a right turn onto Astoria Boulevard so that they can cut down 14th Street, because they can get themselves down 14th Street all the way to Broadway and then get themselves over to Vernon. Okay? They don't stop. They don't recognize stop signs. They don't slow down if they see children. We used to have our children cross the street during a fire drill. Aside from the fact that I almost jumped onto the hood of a car to try to stop the car because he refused to stop, okay, we have people who are cursing at us, who are telling us we don't have a right to have children out at a time when people have to get to work. These are the kinds of hazards that the children are dealing with all the time. We signed a petition because after that incident happened with Julia, my crossing guard, I put a petition out and the school signed it. We had many, many pages of signatures. We brought it and it fell dead in the water. I've come to the association meetings. I've spoken to Richard and I said, please, I need this association to help us. We need to create a safe corridor. And it's not for children. It's for anybody who wants to cross the street safely without fear of getting hit by a car who refuses to stop for a stop sign. Our crossing guards are providing a service. We have a crossing guard at 29th and 14th. We have a crossing guard at 30th and 14th. Just this morning, I was going to a meeting at Long Island City High School, and the crossing guard at 30th Avenue and 14th Street was being cursed out because she was trying to safely cross a little girl to come to school. I don't know what the answer is. I've asked if there was a way we could put cameras up. I've asked if there was a way we could put speed bumps on 14th Street. I have even asked if there was a way we could put an all-way stop sign at 29th and 14th. I'm getting told it doesn't warrant it. And trust me, Richard is working on it because he had to listen to me a few weeks ago. The bottom line is I need everybody to hear this because we all know once something happens to a child, then everybody is out there and everybody's saying shoulda, coulda, woulda. We can't do that. We have to do it now before something happens. My 450 children have a right to get to school safely every day and to get home safely every single day. So if there's a solution in this room, I'm listening and I'm willing to do whatever we have to do to make a safe corridor for the children. Thank you.
Wait, stay for a second. First of all, I'd like to 114 precinct officer.
114 precinct officer Chacon. Hi. So yeah, 14th Street. It's been unfortunately been used erroneously by people trying to cut over to advance the traffic traveling southbound on 21st. I myself used to work this particular sector a few years ago, and I would specifically enforce the stop sign on 29th Street, 29th over 14th. I now have the ability to make the officers that are working during the morning and also in the afternoon aware that this is still an ongoing issue. It's very chronic. As far as getting four-way stop signs, speed bumps, even in my own personal opinion, I feel like it warrants a traffic light. But we don't have control. The police department does not have control of that. It's the Department of Transportation. And unfortunately, sometimes it's more a reactive process than, right? So, but I vouch from the 114 precinct to put the officers there adjacent to the crossing guards. That way people take them seriously.
I would like to say to you that, first of all, I appreciate that. But 30th Avenue and 14th Street, there should be a stoplight. 29th should be an all-way stop sign, but 30th Avenue and 14th Street should definitely be a stoplight. And I don't know why. They usually put those wires down to measure how many cars go. We have never had them in the 3 years that I'm there. And I've asked for that. Because I think if that was put down, I think people would see the amount of traffic that does travel down 14th Street.
I'd like to update you on a few things along those lines. I did talk with DOT, and first of all, they have initiated a study about the speed cameras. Okay, so a study is the first step, and God willing, they will do this. This is something that can be done pretty quickly. And they wanted to restudy 29th Avenue and 30th Avenue again, which they had studied in the past. I've asked them to redo it again. They come up with the usual excuse that it's doesn't meet federal standards. I was not exactly sure what that means, but I hear it all the time. And the other thing, though, that was approved, which I think should help slowing down traffic, and we've advocated for this for 4 or 5 years, they did approve changing 14th Street to 2 ways right to Broadway, so that it's not this big wide thoroughfare that just invites people speeding down, you know. So that should be instituted next summer. So that's something, okay? But the thing we're pushing for right now, the most immediately, is to get the cameras in there. We know that the governor and the controller are behind this, and my next step, if I don't hear from DOT soon, is to write to them. So we'll see what happens from there. You have anything to add? No? Nothing? Okay, I have one quick little thing I want to do, too, because when somebody's this concerned about Astoria and about their students, I think they should be recognized. So we decided to put something together. Okay? And the Old Astoria Neighborhood Association Certificate of Achievement acknowledges Mrs. Lisa Stone, Principal PS 171, Peter G. Van All School. As a school and community leader, your dedication to our youth and neighborhood has made Old Astoria a better place for us all. So thank you. Good.
Thank you.
Good.
I appreciate that.
Good.
That means a lot to me.
Good. Thank you.
Let's hope together we make this work.
We're going to try.
Thank
Good.
you.
Thank you. Okay, questions? Further questions?
Okay, so this is a generalized question for you. You work at the headquarters of the police department. It's not just about speeding. It's one of the things I see here, and I've lived all over the world, is that when you step onto the sidewalk, onto the zebra crossing, you're dodging cars. There's no enforcement in this city. When the pedestrian has the right of way, in theory, in reality, is you are dodging those cars. If you're up in New England or London, the second a pedestrian, their foot touches that crossing, everybody stops. And if they don't, they get a ticket. It would be really good. It's not about just speeding. It's about giving the pedestrians, children, elderly people, people that are maybe having a bad day, they should not be worried about getting run over. It's not jaywalking. It's when you were at that crossing. Is there something you guys could maybe bring back to your superiors and say, you know, we need to put, like I said, I'm from Boston. They put in the middle of every crosswalk a sign, state law, you must stop for pedestrians. Maybe we could just try it here in Astoria. This is where we live, but it would be, I'm telling you right now, a lot of these deaths, especially with the left turns you're talking about.
I can specifically answer that. It has been heard. That concern knows, so just throw numbers at you again. So one of the things, in the last year and a half, so it is now a misdemeanor, unclassified misdemeanor, if you strike a pedestrian with the right of way and cause serious physical injury. That is after the fact, and unfortunately that's not. But as is with many laws, simply having the law in place sometimes does serve as a deterrent, knowing that there is some teeth to it. So also, Cy Vance, District Attorney of Manhattan, has put forth legislation that he's hoping to move forward that will also increase all of the penalties up to an unclassified felony for causing the same injuries. He's trying to put actual teeth to that, which we're trying to make sure that gets out there. Obviously, like I said before, we do not make the law, we simply enforce the law, but that does not mean that I'm against anything that's going to make pedestrians safer. Yes, it is also awareness. So signage and promotion, that falls under DOT. That we in no way have nothing to do with. I wish we did. I wish we could. They don't even consult with us when they change the roads. I wish they did. From our perspective, if you look. Constantly. Oh, constantly. Our highway investigation squad constantly arrests people. I can tell you this. So here's specifically to what you're speaking of, citywide, year to date. In the 28-day period, so the 28 days from November 10th through October 14th, whatever 28 days prior to that. If you compare that with the same dates from last year, in right-of-way to pedestrian summonses in New York City, we have written 8,196 summonses simply for yielding right-of-way to a pedestrian in a crosswalk. That is up 100%, 100.69% from the same period last year. Last year it was at 4,084 summonses. So that concern has been heard. That is what the guys are writing. I can tell you just for now, just about every other category across the board in New York City in terms of summonses is down, other than right-of-way and speeding. We've determined those are the two most fatal actions that can happen on our city streets, and so we have specifically targeted not only those resources under the Transportation Bureau, which is our highway guys, our citywide traffic task force, our local precinct guys, but everybody in the New York City Police Department is writing right-of-way to pedestrians. It is our number one concern. Everyone from Chief Chan. Correct. And
like where I grew up, if you crossed, if someone was crossing, people would be honking at you and say, "What are you doing?"
Correct. Generally speaking, Manhattan is generally the barometer as to what happens, and it happens first. If you walk the city in Manhattan, I've lived in the city for 40 years. I haven't moved out of my house since 1986. I live in downtown Brooklyn. I know there has been a sea change in the way motorists respect pedestrians when they're in that crosswalk, specifically in Manhattan. It will make its way to the outer boroughs. Generally, things start in Manhattan and they make their way out just because things are more visible in Manhattan. But it has made a cause, and it has made a change. And you can see from the numbers based on enforcement that it is happening. It's just taking its time to get out there.
One thing I want to mention along those lines, we did attempt to get the city to put in what you were talking, those little vertical signs you put in the middle of the crosswalk. We wanted to put them in on Shore Boulevard where the kids cross all the time, and the DOT would not do it. They said their signs, people, they're not approved by the city. They refuse to put them up. And we tried. Maybe a petition is in the wind. We don't know. But, okay. I do too.
Hi, Phyllis. Regarding the crossing, can't you get a 5-gallon bucket, fill it with cement, put a pole in it with the sign saying, and stick it in? No? And then they drag it back?
If you find one of them, now you know who made it. No, but you know what? But the current climate with I'm going to use the wrong term. Like, what is it? Vision zero, and with everything, all of the current press, with all of the local politicians about bicycles, about mopeds, about whatever we're talking about. Now's the time to reinforce that the pedestrian always has the right of way. So if it comes with that change, by creating like a hierarchy, we're going to make the streets safer for everybody, because pedestrians stand to lose a lot more if they're hit by anything. So
critical road users out there. And it's unfortunate, but it is something that the right-of-way to pedestrians has become the #1 mantra in the Transportation Bureau at One Police Plaza.
We're going to continue.
And it is what we're working on.
Thank you.
David Matton. I don't have a question, more of a comment regarding or tying into this school issue. One thing that I see is that around pickup and drop-off time around schools is largely a sewer of double parking. Now, this is the parents who are behaving like assholes, frankly, causing problems. So the parents are not blameless, but the point from a policing standpoint, it largely goes unaddressed because it's there every day in the same places. So you got people honking, blocking both sides of the street, then people get upset and try to speed around, block sight lines and all that. And also regarding the crossing, not a policing issue, but a way to address that is to daylight these intersections, and then the community bitches and moans about the loss of any single parking space. So you have to make up your mind about what's important.
Okay, well, this is maybe a little bit contrarian, but for perspective, I have some friends in Florida. I visited down there, and I no longer drive, so now I'm, a sort of a slow pedestrian here. But even so, and even as the wider streets like 21st are not very pleasant to cross, compared to other cities, we're rather spoiled. You're a pedestrian in Florida. You should really take out a life insurance policy and yourself, make it out to your favorite charity. Through the business district, it's 50 miles per hour. That's the posted speed limit. And then there's a lot of people who will, well, you can just read some of the Florida Man stories. But it's dramatically more dangerous to be a pedestrian in many parts of the country. Yes, there are some issues in New York, but by and large, pretty safe here. My pet peeve are people with no license, no registration, and maybe no real name, who go by, except for our friends here. But overall, aside of a few outlaws, we're doing pretty well in the city as far as being able to walk around, much better than many other places.
The city does work. It's amazing.
As I said before, our traffic fatalities last year were lower than those when the Model T came off the line. There were about 245 when the Model T came off the line. We were at 202 last year. Every other metropolitan city in the United States, those numbers have continued to rise as distracted driving and speeding and cycling has become more popular. However, in the city of New York, we have gone down every year. Like I said, we had a little bit of a blip this year so far. The year's not done. We still have intentions of getting as low as we possibly can. But to think that we are moving in the wrong direction is simply wrong. We are absolutely positively moving in the right direction.
One other thing, this is a different subject that I wanted to bring up, has to do with parking. That is under your jurisdiction also, correct?
It is.
And we haven't discussed that. That is an issue, a very big issue around here. We recently, after 20 years of trying, had street sweeping and alternate side put in this neighborhood so we could finally clear some of the cars that would be parked here for months at a time.
And now you want it gone.
No, actually, it's, thank God, it's actually doing pretty well. But we've had very, very few complaints. One complaint that we're having, though, is that it's reaching the point where they're actually not cleaning the streets and they're actually not ticketing the cars. So a lot of the cars are starting to ignore the posted parking signs and just leaving their cars there. So, yeah, and I don't know. I know that enforcement is basically a sanitation issue initially, but still, I know you guys.
No, the alternate side would be enforced by traffic enforcement agents and any generally parking.
Oh, that's you?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
That's her.
So it is becoming a big issue around here. Okay, it took us years to finally reach that point. Now, it's a law with no teeth, and
Okay.
nobody is actually.
If there are
people are ignoring it.
specific locations that you can fill me in on, I'll be more than happy if you want to email me, let me know, and I'll forward it on to Queens North Parking Command, and we'll make sure that we address those concerns as best we can.
Okay. I know there's a couple of streets. It's really the whole area, though. I mean, the street sweeping's been very inconsistent.
Well, actually bringing the sweepers down is a different story.
I know that's sanitation.
I can do my best to make the streets clear for the sweepers to get there.
Yeah.
But whether sanitation is sitting idle in their salt spreader or whether they're cleaning the streets, that's up to them.
Yep, that's true. Okay. Other questions? Okay, we have one more. Okay.
Tony Rodriguez, we all have to share the roads and be aware of each other. Pedestrians, drivers, cyclists, everybody. Question, regarding the right-of-way in a crosswalk, up until what time does a pedestrian have to step off the sidewalk and into the crosswalk?
So long as the hand is not a steady red, the pedestrian may enter the crosswalk and has the full right to exit the crosswalk however long it takes them.
So when you have the countdown clock and it says 2 and they jump in, you're screwed as a driver.
Correcto.
At least now I have the answer. Thank you.
However, similarly, as a driver, if you have entered into the intersection anytime prior to the light being a steady red phase, you are allowed as much time as you want to exit said intersection, so long as you're not blocking the box. Now, blocking the box, a requirement for a blocking the box summons is that there is no accessible space on the far side of the intersection. That includes anything curbside. So if there's a no standing portion of the roadway, parking or otherwise, next to the curb on the far side of the intersection, you can go into that portion of the roadway. That's your defense as to why you weren't blocking the box. But once you enter into or past the designated stopping point prior to the light turning red, you are given all allowances to pass through said intersection no matter how long it takes.
Okay. Nope. Here we go.
Karen Oshesky. I've noticed that they now have delayed, I guess it would be delayed, where I don't know if everybody's familiar with it.
LPIs, leading
beautiful.
pedestrian intervals.
Right.
They're approximately a 6-second delay.
Right. So the pedestrians start across before the cars actually move.
Correct.
Is that going to be something that you think is going to
Yes, that will
go
be rolled.
citywide?
That will be that is a DOT implementation, but I am under all assurances that it will be rolled out citywide. The idea being that pedestrians will be in the roadway already, and it will not be a race to a spot between a pedestrian and a motorist. The pedestrian will already be there, so you would have to actively try and take the space from the pedestrian.
They're working very, very well, especially on your larger streets.
Right. They're trying to shorten the amount of time it takes, or trying to lengthen the time you have to get across the intersection, as well as giving you a head start on the motorist traffic.
Well, that's a good thing.
Okay, this is a general question about if I come up to a red light and there is a bike lane on my left side. There's a solid white line separating me from the bike lane. When I come about 20 to 30 feet from the red light, there's a dotted line. Am I correct to assume that that means if I'm taking a left and I'm at that intersection before bicyclists, they must wait for me, or does the bicyclist have the right of way?
According to the way the VTL is written, the Vehicle and Traffic Law, cyclists when in a cycling lane always have the right of way. You are entering into their lane of traffic. You're not to impede them in any way, shape, or form, regardless of the designation of a solid white line or a dotted white line.
What if they're 30 feet behind me? I'm starting to move. I must be aware of them and stop at that point.
And allow them to pass.
Okay, thank you.
This is just with automobiles. Pedestrians have the right of way over cyclists, correct?
There generally should not be a conflict between pedestrians and cyclists depending on the light signal.
Because I've walked off a curb and, and had a bike pass me about 80 miles an hour and
correct. So long as you are in a crosswalk, then yes, you have the right of way.
Well, yeah. Those old days. Any other questions?
We target a significantly disproportionate number of cyclists than you would otherwise think we do. If you talk to anybody from Transportation Alternatives, they will not see it justified how much we go after cyclists. But if you look at the raw numbers, we write a lot of summonses to cyclists. We will not be stepping off the curb to go after pedestrians anytime soon. That it doesn't seem like it's going to win any favor with the community we're trying to build bridges with. But cyclists, we are making sure that everybody is using the roadway in a safe manner.
One quick question. What about this 15-mile-an-hour timing of the lights is so that the cars really can't go more than 15 miles an hour, which is the same speed as a bicycle?
Right.
You see that spreading?
So in select locations, what DOT has determined is that cyclists outnumber motor vehicles on certain roadways. At which point, in order, not that you're justifying a cyclist running a red light, but if you're taking a bicycle to then have to stop at every second block as well to wait for a full 30-second light cycle, it almost stops people from cycling or de-incentivizes people from cycling. So what they're trying to do is in locales where cyclists do outnumber motor vehicles. I think one of the first pilot spots is Dean Street in downtown Brooklyn. They are timing the lights at 15, which is a more attainable speed for a cyclist. So a cyclist will continue to go through, because in all fairness, the cyclist is probably going to continue to go 50 miles an hour regardless of whether the lights are timed anyway. So they might as well time the lights so everybody else is aware of where they're going.
Good. Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
This is great. We could probably go on for hours, but pleasure. Okay, so I think that Dory has an announcement. Okay.
Super fast. Okay, Dory Kokoris. I'm from Astoria Park Alliance. I left some of these flyers over on the table. Can everybody see me? Maybe I should just, I'm coming up here really quick. Okay, so Astoria Park Alliance has a cleanup in Astoria Park this Saturday and next Saturday. We're cleaning up leaves. It's called Leaf Fest. It's probably one of the most fun cleanups we have. That was number one. Number two, we're also supporting a sock drive for people experiencing homelessness. So if you come to pick up leaves, bring a pair of new socks. Number three, save the date. December 10th is our holiday fundraiser party. It's going to be at QED from 6 to 9. That is all.
Okay, and with that,